الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. There's barakah in the water now. MashaAllah. How's everyone doing? Actually, I'm glad he brought the water. It's part of my analogy, so that works perfectly now. All right. Right. So, what am I talking about again? I'm kidding. Okay, I'll send you a 4-page document on what to say. So, I'm talking about gender roles and gender interaction. And I want to start with hadith of the Prophet. A lot of us probably know the hadith. The Prophet said, "ما تركت بعدي فتنة هي الضرب على الرجال من النساء." Prophet said is a test, trial, or education that is more harmful to men than women. Everyone's heard this? Yeah? Okay. So this is one. In another hadith, Prophet said, فَاتَّقُوا الدُّنْيَا وَاتَّقُوا النِّسَاء. Beware of being enticed by the dunya and beware of women, being pulled by women. So the Prophet is mentioning this is the most harmful test, the strongest and most difficult test for a man is a woman. Right. And here's my water analogy, right? If I told you this is the strongest poison in the world, what would your attitude be? I wasn't kidding, it really was the strongest poison in the world. What would you want to do? Would you like to have a meal right with it next to you? Like that? Would you get close to it? Would you like to touch the glass like this? Maybe later forget, go eat some kebab. You would stay very far away from it because it's the strongest poison. Nobody would grab it and marvel at it. You would stay far from it. Nobody would be like, let me get close. Well, I'm holding it. There's a barrier between me and the poison. Nothing's going to happen. Yeah, nothing's going to happen, right? Those are the exact words. Nothing's going to happen. Just holding it like this. There's a barrier. I'm not going to drink it. I'm just going to smell it, but I won't drink it. You can see where I'm going with this, right? Okay. Right. And then another hadith in Musnad Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, the Prophet ﷺ said, لا يخلون رجل بامرأة فإن الشيطان ثالثهما. The Prophet said, let not a man be alone with a woman, meaning a woman that he's allowed to marry, a stranger woman to him, because indeed the shaitan will be their third. Alright. Or the other narration, it's a different one, so it's a Muslim and Bukhari. This one says that a man should not be alone with a woman because إِلَّا وَمَعَ ذُو مَحْرَمٍ or وَمَعَهَا, except that there will be with her a mahram, someone like a father or brother, something like that. We're going to come back to this again. The point is, the Prophet ﷺ never spoke about men interacting with women in a way that shows that it's harmful, that it's okay, that it's acceptable, that as long as the intentions are pure, it's fine, or as long as nothing will happen, it's alright, or only if something happens, it makes it haram. We don't have a single hadith that minimalized it, what's the word I'm looking for? Marginalized it basically, and made it sound like something that's harmless. But we have the strongest wording, shaitan is the third, and all that. We see from the life of the Prophet. One time, this was Nafi' al-Daylami, he's one of the great scholars from the Tabi'een, and he was the freed servant of Abdullah ibn Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhuma. He says, Nafi' says, one time the Prophet ﷺ pointed to a door in the masjid. He said, we should leave this door for the women. Okay? He says, Nafi' says, Abdullah ibn Umar, until he died, never ever again entered or came in from that, or left from that door, ever. And he died at the age of 100. Never once Because the Prophet said, leave this door for the women. Like, what if it's 3 in the morning, there are no women in the masjid, and I'm there cleaning? What happens when a brother is in the masjid, they're having a sleepover? Like, let's go check out the women's section. Then they go and look around. Oh, this is where they pray. This is where the sister that I want to marry prays. Oh, we touch the ground. Single brothers do crazy things. I don't know. But it's like he said, until he died, he never ever went from that door again. Ever. This is how they took the command of the Prophet seriously. When it comes to the lines in prayer, the Prophet said that the best of the lines of the men are the front rows, and the worst are the back rows. And then the best of the women's rows are the back rows, and the worst are the front rows. Why? Anyone? Because they're the back rows of the men are the closest to the front rows of the women. They're the ones closest to each other. But wait a minute, we're talking about Sahaba, companions, in al-Masjid al-Nabawi. Let me ask you something. A lot of you go to Umrah, right? When you go to al-Masjid al-Nabawi, do you think about, maybe let me talk to that sister? Do you? With our level of Iman, sallallahu al-afiyah, with our level of Iman, we don't dare think in the Masjid al-Nabawi of all places, like, hey, assalamu alaikum, sister, is your wali here making Umrah too? We don't do that. But do you think the companions would do that? No. But even then, in the Masjid al-Nabawi and in Salah and their companions, the best hearts of the best men and women ever in the Ummah, the Prophet was telling these are the worst rows because they're close to each other. Even in Taslim, the Prophet said that when everyone says Assalamu alaikum, that the men and women don't get up at the same time. So they don't walk out at the same time. When he saw them one time after the Salah, they're walking down the road. Everyone's going home. Salah's over. Nobody was intermingling. No one was talking to anybody. Nothing. But he saw that there would be a man and there's a woman walking home behind him, and behind her there's a man walking home. He said, no. The men walk in the middle of the road, the women walk to the side of the road. And nobody, by the way, took any offense. The women didn't say, Ya Rasulullah, how come we get the side of the road and they get the middle? They didn't have this stuff. No, they actually went above and beyond. See, the narrators, the Sahabiyat, they said from that day on, the women on their own would walk so close to the edge of the road that the walls, and they weren't nice, smooth walls, would snag onto their clothing. Nobody made it about civil rights and discrimination. Nobody made it about that. But just that they don't even walk together, just take sides. And everybody obeyed. Right? And these were companions in the holiest of cities. And today we come here in Atlanta and we're like, our hearts are pure and we're just friends. And what's going to happen? And now the world has changed. Now, MSA's changed a lot. We're going to talk about that. But today, a brother will have the phone number of every sister from MSA. Every single one. And the sister will have every brother's number. In our days what happened? We had one brother who had one sister's number, and that was the liaison. And a lot of times it was the sibling of that sister. That was the liaison between the brothers and sisters. We'd have meetings, we'd be sitting separately. You had to, back then, if you're religious, you put a minor frown on your face. And it was constant. So you look like this all the time. Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah. Sister, we need 2 more chairs for Jum'ah. Yes, brother. That's how it was. Now it's like, do you like Nicolas Cage? Nicolas Cage. Oh, things have changed. Okay. My question is, why is it that we will take a culture or we'll take the values of any given society in which we live above the commands of Allah and the Prophet? I mean, really, wallahi, not even equal, above. And wherever you go, Muslims are a minor or reflection of the larger community, right? You go to a conservative city, you'll find the majority of Muslims in the masjid are conservative. You go to a very liberal city, you'll find the majority of Muslims liberal. That's it. It's not like we're all the same everywhere we go because we're strict with Quran and Sunnah. Yeah. We're human, the truth is. But I always wonder, like, why do we take the rules set by a given culture or society on gender interaction, whereas we have it in the Quran and in the Sunnah authentically, and it's very strict. And we took something that was very strict and we relaxed it and we made it the most innocent thing, and there's no harm, and what's the problem? And we're co-workers, we're just friends. Remember that we're just friends thing? So, and cultures change and shift. So which culture do we go with? You understand? Cultures and values, they shift from generation to generation, from one region, one part of the world to another. So they're always moving and shifting. But you know what won't move from its place? The commands of Allah Azza wa Jal. So what would you think would be the safest bet for the Muslim community? To go with what is constant, or one day the line is over here, next day the line's here, one day the line's way over there, next generation the line's here. Let me introduce you to what I call the line, people. Okay? This is something I firmly believe in, all right? That there's a line that we draw. Wherever it is, there's a line that we draw. Things that we won't transgress beyond this line, all right? And my job is to, as much as possible, is to leave the line in the same place. Because when I move the line backwards, the next generation starts from back here. And then when they pull it back, the next generation starts from back here. And then what's going to happen after a while? There's going to be no line asli, right? So and that's why when people make these fatawa, these strange and very relaxed fatwas, they're not thinking about the line. They're not thinking about the generation after this one, the one after that. So when I come and tell you, yeah, and as long as the interaction is okay, and as long as there's a mahram for the sister, yani if her brother is at MSA, okay, take her and her brother out for kufta. What's the problem? Okay? And then you could bring bring two brothers from here. We've halalified it. But when this is with a line now, the next generation starts from here. Okay, starts from having dinner together. The generation after them, where are they going to start? In their living room? Where are they going to start? That's probably part of the reason. Like every generation will pull back a little bit, relaxing the interaction between the genders, and they pull back, and this next group has everybody's phone number, then the next one goes to dinner together. And I've seen it. We'll see, this was in New York. Gave a Jum'ah khutbah at the university, then they took me down to lunch downstairs. Then after the MSA officers put away the chairs and everything, they came to the same restaurant. And they just sat boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl. And they were giggling and laughing. Stop it. It should hit him. And ow. Ya batal. Ya mujahid. Ow. Okay. طيب. Look, you know the saddest thing is that it's, when it's the religious folks, typically, arguably the most, like the people, the MSA officers, they're the ones who are serving the rest of the community, and we can fairly assume that there's a level of religiosity that puts you with MSA as opposed to the thespians or whatever other acting club or dance club there is, right? There's something that puts you there with MSA, and that's some kind of religious drive. But when these people have issues with the rules set forth clearly in the Quran, with lowering the gaze, with being alone, with talking, with unnecessarily, phoning, texting, a lot of giggling, but nothing happens. Nothing happens. Let me tell you this story. This guy told me one time he's studying medicine. He said a classmate. She came to my house. She said we sat down. And he lived with his parents. So we sat down, his parents knew. We studied until 3 a.m. and neither one of us even thought of doing something haram. Then she got in her car at 3 a.m. She left. He said, so why is that haram? Nothing happened. You understand the problem? He said, why is that haram? Because nothing happened. Because in his mind, it's only haram if something happens. But since nothing happened, it's halal. What he doesn't get is that it's haram from the minute you knocked on the door. Because the gathering itself was haram. It's not, oh, if something happened, then it's haram. Nothing happened, alhamdulillah, it's halal. There's nothing in Islam like that. Do it, if something happens, it's haram. If it doesn't, it's halal. You know, like these people tell you, well, if the music has clean lyrics, it's halal. If it has dirty lyrics, it's haram. Really? So I was listening to a song, it started off nice and clean, then it got bad at the end. The guy murdered someone, bust a cap in him, killed his father. Now what's the ruling of this song? Is there anything in Islam where you started and it starts halal, then suddenly at the end you're like, oh, astaghfirullah, this one's haram. Al-halalu bayn wal-haram bayn. The point is, one time, this happened in our university, and this, you know, we had this wave of madness that was going through some of the sisters. Brothers had a different kind of madness, but the sisters were going through some kind of madness with attacking the ahadith of the Prophet, authentic ones, attacking the rulings, and they had this venomous tone when they spoke. So one of them was asking the Shaykh, and why did the Prophet make it that way? And why did he ask the woman to do that? And that's not fair to the woman. And this Shaykh gave her an answer. He said, you know, on the day of judgment, there is no injustice. And on the day of judgment, there is no claim that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not look into. He said, if you feel that the Prophet was unjust to you and unjust to women when he made this decision or this ruling, on the day of judgment, complain to Allah against him. The whole room was stunned. There's still smoke in that lecture hall where he said it. There's still smoke. Yeah? Everyone was just stunned. Yeah, saying, Inna Allah la yadlimu mithqala dharra. Allah does not do injustice in the slightest amount. You feel anyone did injustice to you, and people will be called one by one before they enter Jannah, and they will be mentioned by their name or the name of their father, and so you could come and take whatever you feel you're owed. He says, when that happens, stand up and complain against the Prophet, and then Allah Azza wa Jalla will judge between the two of you. Now, you don't need to be a genius to know who will lose that one. And that's why Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَمَا كَانَ لِمُؤْمِنٍ وَلَا مُؤْمِنَةٍ إِذَا قَضَى اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ أَمْرًا أَن يَكُونَ لَهُمُ الْخِيَرَةُ مِنْ أَمْرِهِ. It is not for a believing man nor a believing woman. If Allah, notice the wording, if Allah and His Messenger decree or decide an issue, that they will have any choice in the matter. That's our job. As one Shaykh said, he said, Islam needs your submission, not your addition. Everyone wants to be a pioneer and an innovator. Yeah, you'll be an innovator, don't worry. You know? So everyone wants to add something and redefine, don't redefine. Just submit. That's what is required of you. No one asks you to revolutionize or to reform. Just do what. Look, we're living at a time where everything is proving that our system had it the right way. Studies are showing that, books are showing that, everything is showing it. I'll get to that. But basically, we're saying this idea of being very relaxed with the most dangerous item doesn't make any sense. Whether you had a good track record and nothing has happened, I've never stepped out of line, good, but don't do it again. That doesn't make it okay. Do not be relaxed about the most dangerous issue. And it's dangerous in many ways, right? What animal kills more people than any other in Africa? The hippo, right? Hippos from all the animals. What do you think? Mosquitoes? Animals. Let's leave the insects alone. You're right, animals. Okay? Yeah, the hippo. Okay? What living thing kills more women than any other? Kills women more than any other living thing. Yeah, amen. Yeah, thank you, sister. In 2021 in America, there was one number, it was like about 5,000 women were murdered, right? In 2021. 34% of them by their intimate spouse. In 2021, 17,970. It's about 18,000 men were murdered in America. Only 6% of them were by their intimate spouse, by women. So women only murder 6% of men, but their partners. But men will murder 34%. Like, why are we getting into murder? What is going on? He just walked in on the murder part. Like, what is this? Am I in the right place? This is criminology 101. Did you register, sir? Okay, please leave. But what happens? The barriers break down. It's inevitable. Even in the workplace. First day, work at a Muslim place. Assalamu alaikum, sister. You do the religious frown. Alaikum salam, brother. And then after a while, sister, how are you doing? Did you watch the thing last night? Watch the what? Suddenly we get friendly. I'm going to, you want some Chinese? Chinese? Yeah. Suddenly we get very friendly. And then we forget. And then I used to work at a company. And the sister's like, dude, everyone has a pet peeve. My pet peeve in this life is any sister calling me dude. I have to restrain myself. قال dude قال أعرفك أنا؟ يقول dude. Dude قال ما كويس. Let me tell you something. You know why I'm mean in my lectures? It's by design, by the way. I'm also naturally mean, but it's by design. You understand? I was talking about how ugly babies are and these things. You know why? And the sisters get mad. That's the point. That's the point. Let me tell you something. I'm one of those mean guys, so I don't get proposals. Let's just keep it real. I don't get proposals. But I know all the speakers they are, right? In the English language. I've met all of them, know that. Some of my colleagues get 6 proposals a lecture. And I know some of the single brothers are like, note to self, become a lecturer. But 6 proposals a lecture. We'd be at a conference. This is one of my friends. He'd give a lecture on Saturday. He gets 6 proposals. Sunday, next day of the conference, he gets 6 proposals. And the problem is that because they like the image. They think that if they marry this speaker, they'll get married, and on the first morning, she will open her eyes and he'll be standing at the foot of her bed. And here's the reality. This is him. And she's like, wake up, aren't you supposed to be a speaker or something? Get up. But it's like the fitna, you guys, the fitna. Just not opening the door. From the early nations, there were people more religious than us. And they fell into zina. Because it's gradual. The story of the monk, Barsisa. And he fell into it. And, just zina, or murder, or shirk, ma khalla shay. He did everything. It just started, but it starts step by step. But he was more religious. Every time I read that story, I think, go to the religious Barsisa before the girl came into his life. And is he more religious than I am? 100%. Very religious. And he still fell into it. So who am I to think, nothing will happen? You got to have measures. When sisters come, they have a problem. Even married sisters, they have a problem. What have you, Shaykh? Can I get your number? I need to ask you about certain things. But sure, here's my wife's number. Take it down. I give him my wife's number. And then they call my wife, and my wife hands me the phone. That's how we do it. Alas, I'm not going to allow any avenue here. It's dangerous. The Prophet said, it's the strongest temptation for the man. I believe in myself. Let me test myself. Didn't the Prophet say not to wish to meet the enemy, not to wish to be tested by Allah Azza wa Jal? Why? So this brother, every time they catch him at dinner with a beautiful girl. What's going on? No, I'm just telling her about Islam. Next time they see him again with Jessica or Jennifer or Caitlin. What's going on? No, I'm giving her da'wah, telling her about Islam. How come you don't give da'wah to Shakwina and you don't give da'wah to Shanaini? Give da'wah. Don't open that avenue. Don't open that avenue. Ever. You know what's a true test of religiosity? When you obey Allah Azza wa Jal in an area that means something to you. Let me explain. You come to someone who has asthma, right? All these lung issues, breathing problems. And you tell them, smoking is haram. What are they going to say to you? Yeah, Yeah, it's haram. Of course it's haram. He's got no interest in smoking. If he took one puff, would need his inhaler and an ambulance. He's got no interest in it. It doesn't mean anything to him. So yeah, of course, he submits easily and openly that it's haram. But go tell a smoker that smoking is haram. Yeah, but yeah, I don't think it's haram. It's actually makruh, and you can now vape the nicotine and you can chew the nicotine, and the nicotine itself is not. You have arguments, I see. Now the same guy who smokes, he's broke. He has no interest in investing or anything. Tell him, brother, usury is haram. Of course, usury is haram. And 1 dirham of usury gives you the hadith about it and everything. Go back to the asthma guy who submitted quickly to cigarettes being haram. Tell him, riba is haram. But in this kind of economy that is completely based upon riba, if we do not partake in such, we will. True religiosity is when you submit in areas that mean something to you, not in areas that have nothing to do with you. My favorite description of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu is that they said, وَكَانَ وَقَّافًا عِنْدَ كِتَابِ اللَّهِ. Love it. وَكَانَ وَقَّافًا عِنْدَ كِتَابِ اللَّهِ. He would always stop at where the book of Allah said stop. Always. Today, we'll stop when it doesn't matter to us. When it's an issue that's close to home. Yeah, but there's a different tafsir, and there's a Shaykh who, he was a deviant, but he said, we're going to rely on deviance. Anything to prove the point. The true religiosity is when you submit to Allah Azza wa Jal in an area that affects your life. Not in the area that you have nothing to do with. You understand? That's true submission. طيب. So, phone numbers, dinner stuff. Someone says, look, so what if we go to 5 brothers, 5 sisters? There's no khalwa here. Like, without mentioning names, if I mention the names of 5 of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, 5 males, I'm saying 5 and I'm doing this, 5 males and 5 females. And I told you they went to a restaurant, they all sat in a booth, and they were giggling with each other. What would you think? You'd be even. That's why I didn't say their names, because it would be so insulting, right? So offensive if I said, these companions, so and so and so and so. Then they took 5 of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then they all sat in a booth and they giggled and laughed, but nothing happened. Is it appropriate? It's not. Is it one-on-one? It's not one-on-one. It's 5-on-5. It's worse. What's bigger, 1-on-1 or 5-on-5? I know what I'm just kidding. But what people try to do is they say, okay, 1-on-1 is what's haram, but we're a group and nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. What do you have in here? A stone? Nothing moves here. Huh? Maybe Sister Halima will, while she's laughing, do a little lean like this and maybe your heart will melt. You don't think that would happen? Huh? Things happen. Or maybe you become attracted to one another. Doesn't happen? These things happen. So it's like, nothing will happen. That's not the only thing that can happen. That one, the one you're thinking of. You know what I'm talking about. That's not the only thing. But we make it halal this way. And then everyone has everyone's phone number. And then we talk to each other for years and hours. And under the blanket, I'm explaining things to you. Why? When we had our MSA, we had a rule. We had a da'wah table where the brothers stood and a da'wah table where the sisters stood. And guess who came to ask about Islam from their brothers? Jessica or Caitlin or Edwina or they came to their brothers. I said, what is this about? Huh? And who came to ask about Islam from the sisters? Chad or Brad or those guys. So you know what we would do to not give Shaitan an avenue? We would switch immediately. So Jessica would come. So what do y'all believe? What's your name? Jessica? Okay. Let me introduce you and we'll just walk over to the other table. So Sister Aisha, this is Jessica. Jessica's interested in learning about Islam. Boom. Move. That's it. Because we don't want to open this avenue for the shaitan. And we had a rule. No guy should be giving da'wah to a girl. And I mean, if I'm at the da'wah table and then a sister comes or a woman comes and she wants to learn about Islam, okay, there's nobody here but me. I'll tell her about Islam. But I don't see any reason on earth why I will take her phone number and then at night under the blanket and I'll be telling her, well, sister, They're different opinions. Why? Why? There are no more sisters left on the planet that you have to explain the opinions? Ya hello. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm grumpy, man. It's fun, when you see old men and they're so grumpy, like, why are they like that? Now I know. It's fun. Being grumpy is fun. Complain about generations. Why are these people my age? We were great. You inshallah, one day you'll get there. You will see. I don't remember what the lecture was about, but that guy did say it's fun to be grumpy. Ooh, طيب. The commands of the Prophet. When the Prophet ﷺ one time after the salat, he said, everybody sit down. Allah, I love this hadith so much. The Prophet ﷺ said, everyone sit down. You know what the narrator says? He says, those of us who were standing inside the masjid to walk out, sat down immediately. He said, those who were outside, they didn't walk back into the masjid to sit down, they sat down outside. And those who had one foot out the door and one foot was still inside, sat in the doorway. That's how the companions were. Amazing people. And that's why they were chosen to be the supporters of the religion. Because of that level of obedience. Prophet said, sit down, everybody sat down. Today, Prophet, if we have a hadith, says sit down here, sit down there. I need a cushion for my lumbar. I need lumbar support. Sit down, sit down. All right. Let me move into the roles, but I did want to say a few other things. Basically, in this day and age, the verse that should be always in the forefront of our minds when it comes to gender interaction is وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Fear Allah as much as you can. There are so many scenarios that are awkward, makruh, and haram that we find ourselves thrust into. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Fear Allah Azza wa Jalla as much as you can. Yes, that's how we operate. Fear Allah Azza wa Jalla as much as you can. Don't try to get a fatwa for it. We all know right from wrong. Just fear Allah Azza wa Jalla as much as you can. What if I'm in the class and my professor is a female? Can I look at her during the class? Fear Allah Azza wa Jalla as much as you can. But there are some guidelines. I was hoping this would be during Q&A, but just let me run through them quickly. Your professor, she's in her 60s, an older lady. Can you just pay attention in the class? The scholar said yes, because there is no fitna, there's no temptation involved here. Okay? What if she's a young instructor, and there is a fitna for you? Fear Allah as much as you can. When you expect the sheikh to give you what? A doctor's note, like, okay, look for the first 10 minutes, and then for the rest of the class, look at your toes. What do you want him to say? Fear Allah as much as you can. Alright? I'm ordering food. Some of you heard me say this before. I'm ordering food at the restaurant. The waitress comes over. Can I just talk to her and do my regular Muslim Q&A? Do you cook the beef next to the pork? And all these Muslim questions. Can I look at her and ask? Or do I have to be looking like this the whole time? Yeah, you can look and ask. What if while I'm looking and asking, suddenly I notice that I might have seen her in a shampoo commercial. I see her hair now, and then I see other things. But now what? Who's going to be there to police you at that moment? Who knows that something stirred in your heart at that moment? Nobody knows, except Allah Azza wa Jalla. Just fear Allah as much as you can. Okay? So I always tell people, you're ordering, you're asking about the food and the potatoes and suddenly you notice she's very attractive. Look, get me water. I'm not eating anything. Done. Sisters, do they have to lower their gaze? And the answer is yes. Is it as strict as it is for men? The answer is no. But we do, for example, the Prophet ﷺ was bringing Abdullah ibn Maktoum to his home. You know this companion, right? He was blind, right? So the Prophet ﷺ told his wives, احتجبا منه. احتجبا منه مش wear hijab, stay behind a barrier or something, because he's coming. They said, Ya Rasulullah, he's blind. He said, أَفَعَمْيَوَانِ أَنْتُمَا. Are you too blind? Yeah, you can see him. Alright? But then on another time, Aisha radiallahu anha, the Prophet allowed her to watch the Abyssinian warriors doing their little display in the masjid. And then he would ask her, have you had enough? She would say no. Have you had enough? She would say no. And then she said, I had enough, but I just wanted to see my place with the Prophet. So you put the two together, and everyone's required to lower their gaze. The women also, but not as strictly as it is for the men. For the men, the first glance is for you. فَإِنَّ لَكَ الْأُولَى. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told Ali radiallahu anhu, لَا تُتْبِعِ النَّظْرَةَ النَّظْرَةَ فَإِنَّ لَكَ الْأُولَى وَلَيْسَتْ لَكَ الثَّانِيَةِ. Do not follow a glance at a woman with another glance. The first one is for you, it's free. Why? Because you didn't know. You were just sitting like this and you turned, there's a girl. Okay, you look back. And I know all the brothers who think they're slick. They said, okay, if the first one is free, let me get my money's worth. Shaitan tricks people. You know how the brothers who are trying to get married, they always look at women and sisters. Oh, Islam said you're allowed to look at the one you want to marry. But she's a lady on the bus, you don't even know her. You're going to marry her? You just gave yourself a green light. I call these brothers are at their peak performance. Because they're peeking over here, then they're peeking over there. But let me tell you guys something. Okay? And I said this today at lunch with a bunch of brothers. The most effective thing, well, there are two. But if you lower the gaze, it is incredible. You will not even feel the pressure of being single and unmarried. Just lower the gaze. Don't look. Don't even take, if you can avoid the first one even. By the way, if I'm sitting somewhere and I hear a woman on her phone and she's wearing high heels and she's coming in my direction, I don't get a first glance. Why? Because you know it's a woman. The first glance was that due to the fact that you didn't know there was a woman there. So you're like, oh, it's a woman? Okay, I'm done. But now you hear her on the phone, and she's tug, high heels, tug, getting closer. And you're just besides her voice, you know it's a girl because she keeps saying like all the time. And like this, like, and like that was a joke. The point is, now when she comes, you're waiting at the door like a rat. But you know it's a woman. So that's not the first glance. That counts. The point is that that's our guideline for living in America. That's our guideline. Because Allah knows what's in the hearts. Allah knows at what point you were innocently looking at the waitress and then it changed from innocent to marriage. Or what point you were looking innocently at your professor and then it went from there to let me give her da'wah and marry her. Allah knows that, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. You know, when it comes to roles in Islam, here's an ayah that you wouldn't suspect that indicates that there are different roles for males and for females. Where when the mother of Maryam alayhi salam, when she gave birth, قالت فلما وضعتها قالت رب إني وضعتها أنثى والله أعلم بما وضعت. Then she said وليس الذكر كالأنثى. She said the male is not like the female. What was she talking about? You know, a lot of times people quote this verse without any explanation. Like they think it just means that men and women are different. She was going to give her child to serve Allah and serve at the temple or the worshippers at the temple. And back then it was always the males. So when she gave birth to a female, she said the male is not like the female, meaning that females didn't, based on that culture, they didn't serve. That's what she meant. But it indicates that there were different roles. Now, why is that a problem for Muslims all of a sudden? What's the issue with having different roles? Okay, let me show you something fun. Okay? Let's see. I'm going to read some things from, okay? I searched, are women better at taking care of children? Okay, why are you laughing now? They are? Okay, just don't laugh too hard, you blow your chances of having children. Just kidding.
Like this is your second. This is your second regret coming in here. First was the murders. All right. Look at this. So I want to see if any study conducted that shows that women are better at nurturing and taking care of their children. Look at how the answers just have nothing. They just avoid this topic. Traditionally, the role of raising children was the mother's. Therefore, it is often considered that women are better parents than men. However, today, circumstances have changed, and both the father and mother are responsible for bringing up the children. And then they threw this in. There's a stronger bond between a mother and child from birth. Do we know that for a fact? Islamically? From our actual lives? Yeah? Which is like, just that last sentence tells you, if I were to pick one to be in charge of the children, would you pick the one that has a stronger bond or the weaker bond? Okay? Next one. Who is better at taking, how it has these little drop-down questions. Who is better at taking care of children? Majorities of mothers say they do. I love that sarcastic tone I'm doing. Majorities of mothers say they do more than their spouse or partner when it comes to managing their children's schedule and activities. Is this what I asked you? The answer has nothing to do with majority of women say. I asked, who's better at taking care of children? Majority of women say they do more of the tasks. That's not what I asked you. Okay? Can men care for children as well as women? By seeing men doing the care work that is too often stereotyped as women's work, girls and boys learned that both men and women can care for children, and that both men and women can also be politicians, community leaders, and business owners. Do you see how they're always avoiding, because nobody wants to say, oh, there's a job that a woman can do better than a man, or there's a role. You see that? Okay, and they threw in the stereotype as this. What are women biologically better at? Simply put, a woman's body handled endurance sports better than a man's body did. Who asked about endurance sports? You see how? Are mothers better caregivers? The researchers conclude the present study challenges the assumption that women are more suited to primary caregiving than men. Fathers and mothers are equally competent at parenting in the primary caregiving role. Nobody said the man's is a failure. And what's so hard about if she goes somewhere and says, give him the bottle at 6 o'clock, change the diaper at 6:45. He can do it. Nobody said he's incapable of doing it. But who would you put your money on to be the better caregiver? But why is it that we got to the point where even in Muslim audiences, we don't want to say it? What happened? Who changed our minds so much? You understand? What? Okay. Why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give or mention different roles and also put one person in charge of the house? Why? I'll tell you an interesting thing. There was an Islamic university, and on the board they had, it wasn't even the board, the people who ran it, there were the board and the instructors and everything. But these were like scholars. I'm not talking about like a Maghrib age group of instructors. I'm talking, these were big shuyukh, and some of them were scholars in the true Islamic sense of the word. They were big shots. Actually, two of them were heavy hitters. The point is, one of them was telling me, he said, we decided to open this on. This was one of the earliest Islamic online universities. He said, we decided that we're going to have shura, consultation over everything. There's not going to be a president, and as a group, all mashayikh and scholars, and we're going to decide together what to do. He says, after a year, we found it to be a complete failure. Because what happens when we vote yes and 4 vote no? Then what do? He said, we found that we have to have a president. Someone who can make a final decision. And we appointed one of us as the president. So it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appointed one as the boss. Allah, who is angry now? What does boss mean? Dictator, yani? Boss means the other is a slave? Is that what it means? Why is there something offensive about that? And I'm speaking with confidence because my wife isn't here. Okay? But what's what's the issue? Like, where is the negative connotation? What's the problem? Does that mean the woman has no opinion, no say in the house, or the color of the furniture? Where do these things come from? They just come from our heads. Allah Azza wa Jalla didn't make it a dictatorship. He didn't make the woman a slave in the house. He didn't say you can't get a career. But where do we get this from? Because someone put it in our head. Allah Azza wa Jalla made it so that you can go out and get a career if you want to. But if you don't want to, there's no blame on you. You understand? Yani, a man and woman, they get married, okay? They met because they had each other's phone numbers at MSA, and they hit it off in each one at night under the blanket. Then they became engaged, they got married. Right? Very innocent, yes? So what happened? They both started a career with a company, and they have to, in the morning, wake up early and struggle through 35 minutes of traffic to get to work, and struggle to 40 minutes of traffic to get back from work. And this continued for a year. And then after a year, the girl says to the guy, listen, you know what? I don't want to work anymore. You go work and you pay the bills. I'm going to pursue a career in crocheting or anything. Ali kayfa. She's free to do whatever she wants. I'm going to get a PhD in nose picking. Whatever. She wants to do anything she wants to. Okay? Can she do that? Is there any shame? So she can pursue her career. She cannot pursue a career. I want to write a novel about two people who romantically met at MSA because they had everyone's phone numbers and they used to go out to steak dinners, but it was 5-on-5, not 1-on-1. Right? Ali kayfa. Like, now let's flip it around. They both start to struggle against traffic, both, and after a year, the guy comes and he tells her, listen, you go to work. You're already laughing. Yeah? You go to work and you pay the bills. I want to pursue a career. Fill in the blank with something fun. Okay? It's turning red. I think it's dying. I think it's good now. So what is that? So now it was funny because he has a job to do. He can't do that. Now I know. I've been around. Don't think I don't know what's going on. Right now, somebody in the higher part of the building up there in the seating area is thinking, yes, but what if she's the millionaire and she wants him to stay and become a stay-at-home father and she's the one who wears the pants? Why? My first question to you is, why do you always try to think of the exception to whatever rule is being mentioned? You understand? We always have people like that. When you give a Jum'ah khutbah, we always have someone who's thinking of the counter. These people are called Arabs. Let's keep it real. Come on now. Ask any khatib in the world. After the khutbah, who's the guy who comes and objects? Wahid Arabi. Educated? Not necessarily. It's just enough to be Arab. Wallah, Shaykh. Come on now. في ملاحظة يا أخي الكريم. Yeah, في ملاحظة. I have a box. Okay? It's right over a fire pit. Write your ملاحظة and drop it in there. Right? Anyways. Yes, you were thinking of an exception. طيب, is there a problem with your exception? The sister owns a multi-million-dollar company and she wants him to stay home and take care of Midhat, her son. Is there a problem? Did Islam say that's not allowed? It's allowed. Just like you're allowed to have a career or quit your career or quit your husband's career because you make 5,000 times more than he does. What's the issue? Like, we complicate everything. We complicate everything. But the default, don't find the exception to cancel the general rule, right? The default is the man does that. She can write a novel and he works and he pays the bills. Now if she, this is going too deep. I don't want to go deep. But basically, if she works and he works, can she help out with he can. Islam didn't make things difficult. They can make an arrangement and she can pay the electricity and he pays everything else. And couples come to you fighting over these issues. She makes more than me and I pay everything and she doesn't help out. Okay, help out. And if you just be a human. Forget be a human, kid. Help out. Don't you help out complete strangers? Help out. What's the issue? But everything is proving. You know what the Me Too movement proved? Because people used to argue against Islam using, look at the Western world. You guys are making it look like it's the most dangerous thing in the world. First of all, I didn't. The Prophet ﷺ did. Okay, the tension between men and women. But in the Western world, they're co-workers. They go to the movies together. Nothing happens. Nothing happens because you don't know what you're talking about. That's why nothing happens. That's why nothing happens. But the Me Too movement was proof that it was a failure. That a man and woman could be alone, or they can say, come to my hotel room, let's discuss this. That was proof that it was a failure. And everybody was doing something wrong to some woman somewhere and abusing their power. That was proof. But even after that, we still have Muslims saying, and so what if we go to dinner? Me too. Was it enough for you? Wasn't that proof that we should have listened to Allah Azza wa Jal from the beginning? Before the studies came out. You know those Muslims? They only believe the ayah when the science comes out confirming it. They only believe the hadith when the studies show that it was right. Oh, I got it. Should have believed first. Should have believed first. Alright. I don't know how much time have I used up. 5 minutes? I've used up 5 minutes since I started. I'm kidding. I was giving a lecture in Malaysia one time. And it was a Chinese place, Muslim dawah place. So I said, I need to pace myself. How much time do I have left? I looked at the organizer, he goes like this. I said, I need to pace myself. How much time do I have left? He goes. What is this, some Chinese wisdom? Yani, sabr. I need to know how much time I have left. He goes, 5. So this is 5. What do I have to do with Islam? When Dhul Qarnayn met a group of people, لا يكادون يفقهون قولا. In another narration, يعني قراءة لا يكادون يفقهون قولا. They could barely help you understand, they could barely understand. So people think that, well, sign language is universal, and this is drinking. No, some places this is drinking. They don't have your privileged ceramic cups, ya Habib. This is drinking. 5 is 5 everywhere. No, Habibi, this is 5 for the Chinese folks. No, this is sabr for us. Anyways, but studies, books, research, couple show everything, showing that the structure that Allah Azza wa Jal put together for the family, for homes, between the genders, this is how it works. This is what works. And now when the studies are showing it, people, oh yeah, by the way, Islam said it. Why didn't you tell the world about it first? Yeah? Only after the studies showed, then you like flex your muscle. Islam said it a long time ago. You should have brought it to the world then. Not the world brings it, then you confirm. But what I always tell the sisters that want to, okay, let me put it into context, okay? And this is the last thing, and we'll end because I'm sure in Q&A we'll explore a lot more things during Q&A. But I was invited to this conference in Northern Europe somewhere, okay? And it was basically a conference for, like, I don't know what to call it. It's not feminism, because feminism isn't necessarily a bad thing, you know? And there are different kinds of feminism. But radical feminism is the one that gets on everyone's nerves. You know, the ones where they want to spell women WOMYN so they can get the men out of women. What is that? Right? That kind of stuff. That's radical feminism. Everybody can't stand that. And many women write books against radical feminism and so on and so forth. But the point is, at this conference, they were talking about misogynistic ahadith in Sahih al-Bukhari. Yani women-hating ahadith, I know. And they were attacking the ahadith and attacking Islam. It was a horrible conference. But they also invited the wrong guy. They invited me. So I had to flip that whole thing upside their heads. You know? The point is that what I said there is like, you're attacking Islam. And you want to secure your rights. You want to make sure women have a better place in Islamic society and in Islamic communities and in the home. But you doing it, you're trying to secure these rights by attacking Islam. The only way that will secure your rights. And what do you think? You're like, the uncles in our masjid, you're going to convince them with an ayah and a hadith or a study from a university of whatever. What do you think is going to convince them? So you're attacking the same vehicle that will get you out of the bad situation. And I'm admitting there's a bad situation, but it's not because of Islam, it's because of people and abuse. So I said that's the analogous to someone who has a camel and they have to trek across a large area of desert, and then halfway through the trip they slaughter the camel and they have it for dinner. You just killed the vehicle that's going to help you get to where you want to. So when you attack the ahadith and you attack Islam, you're just killing the vehicle that'll help you get where you need. But the more you learn about your religion, the more you'll see that you're not oppressed. There isn't an issue. Man can't use anything against you because you know your deen. It's funny that the ayat and the things that men try to use to show their supremacy over their wives and what have you, if they understood them properly, they would understand that they're on the side of the woman. يعني الرجال قوامون على النساء. Men are the maintainers of women. Every man uses this hadith to show that he's superior to his wife. This ayah, sorry. But you know what the problem is? He doesn't even understand what it's saying. The verse isn't saying men are in charge, they're the bosses. It's saying they're your servants, they work for you. The qawama here, they're the ones who are supposed to serve you. That's what it's saying. So next time, it should be, a woman knows her deen, a man uses that verse, you should tell him, yeah, get to it. Like, what do you mean? Let me explain the verse to you, yeah, jahil, jahsh. So you can understand and not misquote. The more you learn your deen, the more you see that no one can take advantage of you, no one can try to make you feel oppressed. But the problem is that, and this is, I promise, my last thing, when you're made to believe that you're oppressed, you will see everything through those lens of oppression. Everything gets translated and seen through the lens of oppression. Alright? And that's why psychologists say the best way to control a people is to control how they see themselves. If I can make you see yourself in a negative way, as a terrorist, a potential extremist, someone who's oppressed. When is the last time someone who's an extremist or who's oppressed and downtrodden invented something or came out with something amazing or an innovation or changed the world? You understand? They're under this dark cloud of I'm oppressed. So I'll conclude with this story. We were at a conference in Denmark, and it was just me and another speaker, and there was a women's section and a men's section. And for Q&A time, they only had one extra mic. So the brother, without thinking, because he's going to walk back to the brother's section. So as he was walking back to the brother's section, he just gave my brother the mic and he sat down. Every other question was, why did the men get the mic and the women didn't get the mic? And I'll tell you, on his defense, it was honestly just without thinking, and it was just an honest mistake. He didn't mean anything. He didn't mean the woman's voice was awra or any of this stuff that has no basis in Islam. He just was walking back, so he just handed it to a brother in the men's section who was there. And every question was, why did the brothers get the microphone? How come the sisters get no microphone? So the organizer said, no one even noticed it. It was just that he gave it. We only had one. We didn't even realize that you didn't have one. But the language was just so, why are we oppressed? Why are you unfair to us and everything? And so the Shaykh was with me, very respectable Shaykh. He said, don't let this be the biggest issue in your life right now. Let me tell you the truth. Imagine this. Imagine the brother just handed it to the sisters. Without thinking, he just handed it to the sisters and went and sat down. Do you really think, keep it real, do you really think the brothers will be saying, why didn't the brothers get a microphone? How come the sisters get the only microphone? Do you think the brothers would do that? Brothers would be happy. They want to hear sisters' voices. I know her. Got her phone number. Yeah? Now, I know what you're thinking. I know. There's that sister. She's up there. It's the same one that had the other thought earlier. Now I tell you what she's thinking. She's thinking, yes, the brothers wouldn't have thought that way, because they're not oppressed. Boom, I got you. What I say earlier. You keep seeing yourself under the lens or through the lens of being oppressed. That's why you gave me that answer. You understand? Just relax. Relax about everything. Everything's a big deal to us. And it's not even a big deal to Allah Azza wa Jalla. Everything's a big deal. You just say the word polygamy. Religious sisters. What? You don't want to deal with polygamy? Inshallah, you never deal with it. What's the problem? You understand? Like, is polygamy one of the pillars? For some brothers it is. But is it really a pillar? Is polygamy a pillar? Malik, yani, what's the issue? You know, one time a sister in Canada, she wanted to take her shahada. And she had been studying about Islam and everyone had the support of her spouse and everything. She said, there's just one thing about Islam. And I can read minds, right? I just said, polygamy. She said, yes. I said, become Muslim and don't practice it. She said, yeah. I said, yeah. Allah's done. I know you want more of a story, but that was the story. Khalas. Khalas, done. Become Muslim and don't deal with polygamy. And don't let your husband deal with it. And don't be in a relationship that's polygamous. You're going to delay your Islam because I don't want polygamy. Khalas, become Muslim and don't deal with polygamy. It's just like fish. Okay? Does Islam say you have to have fish for dinner? Or you have fish. Don't have fish. Simhari. Who cares? It's not a big deal. Have fish, have fish. Nobody cares what you have. You want to be in a polygamous relationship? Good for you. You don't want to? Inshallah, you never do. What's the issue? Everything becomes be-all, end-all. Everything becomes be-all. Religious people. This is in the old days. I know this is another story. This is in the old days, you know. We were like naive and stuff. We were at ISNA. And we were selling CDs. They were CDs days. We had a CD called The Rights of the Husband. And we had a CD called The Rights of the Wife. And we were selling both. And as salespeople, we had a joke. You know, we would tell the brother, we see like a man and his wife, we were like, brother, look at these CDs. And then we'd show him The Rights of the Husband. And then we say, The Rights of the, and they're $2.50 each, 2 for $5. But if you have 3 other wives, we'll give you a discount. Ha, 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 ha. That's innocent joke, right? Not offensive, is it? No, it's not. Oh, you should see the religious sisters who came to Islamic conference and they have hijab. Oh, they would try to give us evidence that it's haram to have more than one wife. Yes, yeah, yes. Why are you trying to make it haram? It's halal, but don't do it. Yes, it's halal, but don't do it. Just like fish. I know it's the weirdest analogy. Fish, it's halal to eat. You haven't have it for dinner? He said he's going to have it for dinner tonight, right? If he hasn't, imagine if he has fish for dinner and all the chicken brothers get mad at him. Well, why did you have fish? What about murghi? What's wrong with murghi? You understand? What's the problem? It's that simple. Complicate everything. Try to make it haram. Don't try to make it haram because you will lose that battle severely. Severely. Alright, I'll just end with this funny story. This was Southern California, where all crazy people go to live. And some joke came out about polygamy, which everybody laughed except for some sisters. They went into Iblis mode. Like, why? Why? Anyway, so one of them tried to send me a refutation. So she wrote me a note. She said, as a man, the Prophet ﷺ only had one wife. As a prophet, he has multiple. I never saw this argument before, but I understood it. She's saying, as a man, he only had one wife. As a prophet, he had multiple. And you're men. So I just read it out loud and I said, yeah, but we were commanded to follow the Prophet. Just take it easy. It's all a joke to us. It's all a joke. Just relax. All right? Anyways, I'll end here. Thank you for listening attentively and for coming. We're still going to do Q&A, but if I've offended any of you with anything that I said, just get over it. Says, question from a non-Muslim: how do you know Islam is the truth for all of humanity and not just the religion and culture you were born in? This question indicates that you're a smart individual. Because that's the question everybody should ask. And as a da'iyah, that's my number one frustration, is that nobody pauses and looks at their religion this way. Okay? So, brilliant question. If you're in the room, excellent and good job. This is exactly what every Muslim should be, and every religious person in the world should ask. But what's beautiful about Islam is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to think that way. No other religion does that. Allah tells us to consider and ponder. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. Allah is saying, do they not contemplate this Qur'an? If it were from other than Allah, and if it were man-made, devil-written, if it were from other than Allah, they would have found many discrepancies in it. That's just one way of knowing if Islam is the truth, if it's a book of Allah or an impostor wrote it. That it's 600 plus pages and there would be discrepancies. This part will contradict the other. This part doesn't match what was said earlier. Okay? And this is known as a falsification test. When something is true, you can try to prove it false. But a lot of the times, not all the time, but a lot of the times, when something is false, you cannot falsify it. I'll give you an example. If I say, my car is the fastest car in the world, and it's true. Like, let's suppose it really is the fastest car in the world. You can try to prove it false. You can race it against another car that you think is the fastest car in the world. You can run it on the drag strip and time it, and then look at the times against another. You can, more than one way, try to prove it false. And then you can see that it's true, because you couldn't prove it false. But if something is already false, most of the time, you can't falsify it. Then if I tell you, every time your computer crashes, it is due to an invisible pink unicorn nudging it with his horn. Like, can you prove this false? How? Is there any camera that can show invisible pink unicorns? There's one for red ones at Best Buy, but pink math. So how can I prove this false? When typically, when you cannot prove that something is false, that's an indication that it's false. Allah tells you in the Quran to contemplate, to consider, to think about the creation, to think about the origins of things, think about where you came from, the stars, the sun, the moon, the camel, okay? And then He tells you to contemplate, if this Quran was not from Allah, what would it look like? So our religion put that in us from the beginning, and that's why we can examine Islam through many different ways to prove that it's the truth from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not just one way. Not just one way. Wallahu ta'ala. Okay. Is it advisable to Muslims to make hijrah to Muslim countries to overcome the current state, LGBTQ, etc. of the West? So, look, basically it's like this, alright? Just here are the guidelines. I can't answer the question for you. The guidelines are, forget America, anywhere in the world where you find that it is impossible for you to live your life as a Muslim, then you should leave that place. You understand? Anywhere. Wherever you live, it's impossible. I'm not able to pray. My wife can't put on her hijab. My daughter can't put on her hijab. I can't go around with my beard. I'm not able to practice my religion. Then you'll be blameworthy and you'll be asked, Allah's earth was wide and expansive. Why didn't you move? Right? Like the verse says. So that's the one guideline. The other is that Islam, besides those few guidelines which are very extreme conditions, didn't tell you whether to make it or not. In the early days, hijrah talk was like everyone was talking about hijrah. And by the way, nobody left. I'm telling you the truth. Okay? 90s, everything was about the hijrah, and everyone still stayed. Next year he's here, and after that he's still here, but everyone's talking about hijrah. But then then the scholars started to give other fatwa. Like, is it realistic? And if we're 7 million Muslims in America, yallah, some of us go to Egypt, okay, some of us go to Jordan. Are those countries even able to handle this many millions of people coming in? And then what are you going to do in Egypt, in Cairo? What are you going to do? It's not even realistic. And if someone takes shahada and becomes Muslim, okay, what do we do? Like, we give him shahada in the street. Okay, brother, welcome to Islam. Do you have your passport? We're taking you to Alexandria. Egypt. You have to pack your bags and go. If you have a dog, kill it and come. طيب يعني ده شنو بالله معقول ده؟ It's not possible يعني. But I look, the LGBT thing, the T thing is getting out of hand. But I don't know if that's at the point where I would have to make hijrah because of that. They're few and they're loud, but I can avoid them. I've avoided them very nicely so far. I made my children avoid them, you know. Just cut Disney out, you're fine. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Okay. That one's a tough one. This is my favorite thing about written questions. You answer the easy ones and then you pretend we ran out of time for the hard ones. If both parents know and give consent to gathering in a public setting where they sit across while lowering the gaze, is this not valid according to the Sharia? So there isn't much context here. So let me create a context and answer it. All right? So this is a real deal situation where the guy went to the house and asked for her hand, and the father looked him up and down and he said, well, since you're from the same part of the village that I'm from, back home, I accept. Okay? Now, in this scenario, then the father gives him the green light that she takes her brother, her sibling, and then they take Mr. Shawarma or the would-be bridegroom, and then they go in a public gathering and they sit while people are lowering the gaze and kida. Based on what we just described, ahla wa sahla, it's fine. Okay? But you kind of narrowed it down here. But now the guy, they just want to get to know each other. So without her, so they just go and sit, and yeah, they're going to sit like this the whole time. Do you like your steak? Yes, brother. Should I get you more tzatziki sauce? You know he's not going to be like this the whole dinner. With candles, henna, with Joe, romancia. What scenario is this where he's going to be like this the whole time, looking under the table? Yes, sister, alhamdulillah, the steak was delicious. And she's also lowering her gaze that she's under the table. Not going to happen. Okay? But in the scenario that I described, yes, it would be okay. Wallahi, these days you have to be so careful. One time this guy came to me, asked me some very generic questions about if he saw a sister in the mall, very generic. I answered very generic. Next morning, his wife woke up, he wasn't there. What happened? He went to meet a Russian lady at the mall. When she found out, because women are good detectives, she investigated, found the password. Like, he went to meet the woman at the mall. She called him. He said, I spoke to Shaykh Kamal, he says, halal. You see? Be careful answering questions. People, iman is weak and they formulate it in a way to get a yes out of you, then they go do something completely different and Shaykh Muhammad Sulaiman said so. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Is making fun of people in a haram relationship the same as slandering them? Is it the same as accusing them of zina or lesser? Number one, let's not make fun of people. And I'm not even a nice guy, so I'm not going there. Listen to me, okay? Let's not make fun of people because the attitude of the Muslim is rahmah and pity. Wallahi, they're lost. They're incurring anger of Allah Azza wa Jal. So it's not funny. Wallahi, let's all train ourselves. When we see Muslims getting high, drinking, dating, first thing, feel pity. It's permissible to feel angry for the sake of Allah, but not to transfer the anger to them. But feel pity. They're lost, wallahi, and they think they're living it up and they're cool. Masakeen. That's the first feeling you should have. Okay? So don't make fun of anyone in any relationship. Okay? But if they had a YouTube channel where they're ridiculing the Prophet ﷺ and saying profane things about Allah Azza wa Jalla and the Quran, and then they fall in the bathtub and break their leg, laugh. That's fine. That's fine. Okay? Do reenactments of it. Slow-mo. Okay? But, so that's the first part of it. The second part, is it the same as accusing them of zina or lesser? So, if you're making fun of them for being lost, what have you, that's different. If you're mentioning zina without evidence, don't do that. Okay? Now, the scholars, al-qadf is when you mention explicitly zina. Then there is, there's a better term, it's not talmih, but basically when you hint to zina. When you hint to zina. So for example, if I'm talking to a brother and I say something like, well, at least, alhamdulillah, I'm certain that I'm the son of al-Mekki. What am I saying? You don't get it? No? My name is Kamal al-Mekki, for those who don't know. My name is Kamal al-Mekki. So I'm talking to a brother and we start to insult each other. And I'll be like, well, at least I know for a fact that I'm the son of al-Mekki. You get it, right? So hina, I'm saying that my mother was an honorable woman and I know but you gotta have another father that you don't know about. You see? So here, the three madahib, the Hanafi, the Shafi'i, and the what's left, the Hanbali, they say it's clear what he's saying. He'll be punished, and he's considered a qadhif, and he's considered someone who is accusing of zina. The Malikis say no. We bring him to court, and we ask him, "What did you mean?" And there's one, but this is a true story. There's one Egyptian brother. He was having a verbal altercation with an American man in the streets. He was telling us the story. So he says, I told him, my mother is clean. At least I know who my father is. Go see who your father is. Is that clear? It's clear what he's saying to you. My mother's a clean woman, and I know who my father is, but you have to go find out who you're... So what's he saying about his mother? He's accusing her of zina. Now, the Malikis will say, you bring him to court and ask him, what did you mean by that? He will say, oh, when I was a little boy, my mother, she took a shower 3 times a day, she was very clean. Oh, you didn't mean zina? طيب معلش, خلاص, you can go. If you do that, wallah, I meant his mother, he's going to be punished in court. So, if you were doing either of those two, while making fun of those poor people who are lost in the haram, then it is the same as accusing them. But if you're just making fun of them for dating and what have you and being lost, you shouldn't be making fun of them, but it's not the same as zina. Wallahu a'lam. I hope that was clear. Okay, let's see. We did number 1, number 2. 2 I skipped. Maybe I'll come back. Last one. Okay, this one says, why should one have their own kids versus adopting orphans that they can make their mahram? Adopting orphans, they can make their mahram. I mean, I don't know how to answer this question. You're asking me why should one have their own kids versus adopting? It's like everyone in the world knows, like the most preferable thing is to have your own children, your own blood, and that will carry your name. Okay? But there's nothing wrong with adopting. So it's just, and if you're not convinced that it's a great thing to have your own children, then go ahead, adopt. It's not a problem. Right? But you're asking, like, why should you have your own kid as opposed to adopting? Like, you just made the greater one the lesser one. For most people on the planet and in history, having your own children is the greater one, and then adopting is great in its own right. So it's up to you. Islam didn't say anything. You want to have children, have children. You want to adopt only, you and your wife, or you and your husband, go ahead and adopt. Or you can be better and get the best of both worlds, have your own children, and adopt a monkey like a child on top of that. Then, okay. But, find the little things that make them a mahram, Like, for example, sometimes a woman will take pills that will induce breast milk, and then she will feed this infant, as an infant. And then now he can grow up as a foster brother to her child, and your daughter doesn't have to wear hijab in front of them. There are ways around it, explore it more. But perhaps I misunderstood, but the wording is saying, like, why would you have your own kids if you could adopt them? Like, no, having your own kids is greater. And plus, you don't feel as guilty after you spank them. But the adopted kid is like miskeen, lost his parents, now I'm smacking him like this. But my child, I'll whoop him like there's no tomorrow. And for those who can't tell I'm joking, I feel bad for you. It's clear that I'm joking. But sisters always get offended. So sisters, let's be clear. Let's just, so we know, understand each other. Like, put that phone down, I see you recording. You're trying to get me in trouble. Do not use your hands to strike your child. Alas, agreement? You know what kind of person I am now. Don't use your hand to strike your child. Use a stick, a shoe, a donkey. You guys are great. Jazakumullah khair for putting up with. I know you're going to send complaints to the organizer. Why did you bring him? There was Sa'ad Taslim, Sulaiman Khan. Why him? What possessed you to bring this guy? How does a Muslim refer to trans people who want to be called a pronoun opposite to their actual sex or gender? Okay. Look, I don't know. I do know, but I don't like giving fatwa. Many times I'll know the answer, but I don't want to be the one issuing the fatwa because it should be from someone at a higher rank and a higher pay grade. But I do know, but I won't say. But basically, I'm going to say something. Watch. Basically, there is a difference between someone who is so lost and insistent upon being called something. That is my coworker that put me in an embarrassing situation and me believing. I join a company and then some guy comes to me like, hey, hi, how you doing? I'm Jill. I'm a woman. Oh, okay. Nothing about you says woman. Okay? But I'm pretending to be an idiot. I suspend all logic and I'm going along with it. Okay? And I would like you to call me Sim, sir. طيب يا حبيبي. Based on the size of your biceps, I have to call you Sim, sir. But in my heart of hearts, أنا عارف إنك واحد معفن ابن 60 معفن وأنت ذكر ومتعملش فيها حرمة. Okay? I won't translate that. This is a crazy night. Basically, there's a difference between me believing that you're Jill really, and your beard's up to here, and just for the sake of office politics, saying Zem. Aslan Zem, what does that mean, Zem? There's no meaning. You know? Zem, and then I'll make it difficult for him. I want you to call me Shemikh Mukh. And if you have to pronounce it like that, otherwise you're offending me and my 500 years of culture. Shemikh Mukh. I respect you, brother. I mean, sister. You respect me. Oh, I don't care. I don't care. Who wants to go to Europe anyway? You know the best thing that happened between Europe and America? The Atlantic Ocean. Atlantic Ocean. That's the best thing that happened for keep us far. I grew up in Europe. And in Europe. Like last thing. Let's see. Bismillah. There was one that I skipped earlier. Yes. If LGBTQ is so normalized, I think these were for the speaker before me, really. If LGBTQ is so normalized, how can we stop normalizing it in our hearts? I'm a middle schooler with some of my classmates identifying as LGBT, and there's a necessity to interact and be friendly all day. So how do I maintain hatred of a sin and not the sinner? Look, you're smart, mashallah, may Allah keep you firm, and you know the formula. You just need to understand that you have to keep doing the training. Bas. You know the formula. You already know what you have to do, right? And it's a great thing that in Islam that I can be polite with someone who does something that in my religion is haram or that I don't agree with, and I can be an agreeable person to my classmates and co-workers, but I don't have to accept it in my heart. And you can go through exercises to remind yourself that this is not acceptable. Yes, you're a nice guy, but this is not acceptable. But it's not any different than shirk. And why is this confusing? How many Christian friends do you have? And very good friends. You know, in Texas, I used to have a neighbor who's a police officer, and like their daughters were like our daughters. Basically, they wake up, they just come to our house, and then they stay until night. Then they go home and sleep. Every day like this. I don't buy anything from the store for my kids except I buy for his 3 daughters. I don't go overseas or to a trip and I bring for my kids without bringing for him. Right? And shirk is worse with LGBT. Which is the worst sin? Shirk or that thing? Shirk. And he's a good friend of mine and I love him and his family. But I'm aware that I don't accept shirk. It was never a calamity for me. It was never like, oh, now I'm starting to hate him because I hate shirk. Nor did I say I'm starting to love Shaykh because I love this guy, Jason. Just, that's the formula. You figured it out. You're smart. Always remind yourself, yeah, they're nice people. This guy's funny, all right? But there's also... I should never speak about this LG stuff. There's too many good jokes possibilities. I should never speak about this topic. They built this gay masjid in Toronto. Remember? It was like a long time ago. I was like, how do you know? Like, you don't want to pray there. How can you recognize it? The minaret is shaped like this. Let me tell you something, people. For what this middle schooler is asking, Jazakallah khair for being aware. I had a presentation about transgender. I have a lecture on YouTube about that. It was based on a lot of the research and all that stuff. Look it up. Okay? I repeated it for some Girl Scouts that came to our masjid. I was purposely not being funny. Because, the sensitive issues. I was purposely avoiding jokes. I was being very serious. Then at the end of the lecture, one of them was crying. I was like, that, and now you came to cry? This is what makes you cry? Palestine, ما في crying. مش عارف people dying in Burma, Myanmar, على Kashmir, على India, what's happening to them? Okay. Let's start crying. I don't want this to be unfair. And she just accused me of making jokes, which I didn't that day. But people just always want to blame you, kida, and make you the one who's the oppressor, and then they're the ones who are innocent. Like, billah alayk, this is what you're going to cry about? At least the questioner, mashallah, is aware of the situation. He's not going to start crying and making this the most important issue, more than what's happening anywhere else in the world. It's what's happening to the gays in America. If there's any impression, it's what the gays are doing to us. Like 3% of the population runs 98% of the show, for God's sake. Who's abusing who now? Whom? You guys don't agree with me? It's abusive. Oh my goodness. We're done, right? Huh? There's a scroll bar inside there's another scroll bar. I've been scrolling on the side. There's like 1 million questions here. I should have seen it. It's not your fault. I should have seen it. Look at this. There's like 5,000 questions. There's no time for all this. See, the plan worked. We'll take one, but okay, the one who asks this question will also win something. Ooh. Oh no, this must be a joke. See, I'm crazy, so you threw this in there because I'll pick this one. How do I approach the sister I want to marry when she's sitting a few rows behind me? It's not done yet. Please help me, Ustad. Then it's a crying emoji. Crying. What a heartbreak. Crying. This brother, halas. And I hope it's a problem. I know it's a joke. Because if the person wasn't joking, everybody knows everybody. Alright? Somebody is a sibling to that sister. Somebody's a parent to that sister. Your mother must know their mother. Something. You can find out. And approach you, khalas. Only the guy who comes here doesn't know anybody can't approach a sister. You can always indirectly. There's one of the married brothers here. Let his wife go talk to her. There's ways. Plenty of ways. So I'm going to assume that one wasn't serious. If it's serious, come see me after the class. I have a therapist for you. Can guys and girls be just friends? This is done. Don't ask this question ever again. It's done. Studies disproved it. Dumb YouTubers who just do these social experiences, even those airheads disproved it. It's done. It's finished. It's finished. Okay? Never ask this question again. The answer is no. No. Just look it up on YouTube. Kuffar are answering this question for you, Islamically. Okay? And I always say, it's like, can a gazelle and a lion be friends? Go ahead, give me circumstances where it has happened. None. Alright? Gazelle tells her gazelle friends, nothing's gonna happen, we're friends. Yeah? Wait till he's hungry. Wait till lunch. You can't. If you have a guy friend, He's waiting till lunch. No other living thing is more dangerous to a woman than a man. Nothing's gonna happen. Like, you already dug the hole out in the woods. Men are dangerous, stay away from them. They kill women. Think I'm kidding? Thoughts on arranged marriages. Do we know what we mean when we say arranged marriages? Because here's what white people think. They think that it's like buying a watermelon. Yeah, you go home, bust it open, it's either sweet or it could be as sour as a monkey. Alright? It's not like that. Arranged marriages doesn't mean that. Arranged marriages means your mother comes to you while you're playing Call of Duty. She says, pause it. She sits on the edge of the bed and says, my sister so-and-so, her daughter now, mashallah, very beautiful girl. And she now turned 18 and we want to find a husband. And you guys can meet on Zoom and see if you like each other and we go from there. That's an arranged marriage. Are you forced to do it? No. Only for white people, they think that, oh, you're forced to marry. It's like a watermelon. You open it, could be good, could be bad, and you're forced in that situation. But arranged marriages, statistically, are more successful than the ones where you fall in love over steak because you had each other's phone numbers from MSA. Statistically, those marriages are more successful. Alright? But Hollywood would have us believe the opposite. Hollywood, and everything there is everything is inaccurate there. So arranged marriages, it's okay. No one's forcing you. Forced marriage is different. That's not okay. And like when I perform marriages, I hear the yes from the girl. Okay? You ask the guy, you willing to marry? You ask, you willing to marry him? And she says yes, and I want to hear it from you. I always pull them in a separate room, and I ask both of them. I have to hear it from them, just to make sure no family is not forcing her. But you don't have to always investigate unless something is wrong. Like if you go and she's smiling and her mother's happy and her dad's happy and people wiping tears, it's clear the girl wants it. But if you go into the house to do the aqd and everyone's tense, like this, something is wrong here. Can I speak to the girl, please? Then you ask her, do you want to marry this guy? Blink your left eye if they will kill you. And she goes, bang. And I go white, 911. Hello? I'm so sorry, I didn't know there were like a million questions in here embedded. But let's stop, okay? Before I say anything that gets me in worse trouble. I don't know, does the fit that we as men feel towards women also go vice versa? Does the feeling men have towards women go vice versa? You know, one day when I was really scared, I promise I'm done. One day when I got really scared, I was in psychology class and the professor was talking about how much men think about intimacy per day. And then studies showed that when women think more of it, more often. They think of it more often per day. When I heard that, I was like, we're doomed. Because that's what men do all day. You just like ding, 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 ding. That's just all day. That's what they think about. Ding, 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 halo. Ding, 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 ding. Just 1 second, they thought about a video game. The rest, even while they're playing the game, they're like ding, 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 ding. And then women are more ding, 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 ding. No wonder Allah said separate, keep away from each other. No wonder. And then after all this, and all these studies become, the hearts are pure, nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. Lose your inhibitions. I'm chatting with a girl in Norway, nothing's going to happen. She's in Norway and I'm here. Yeah? Into what? You were born yesterday? You don't know what can happen through these things? Move your video option here? Alright, you guys. I understand the level was a little crazier. Thank you for bearing through that. Jazakumullah khairan for having me. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.